This is episode 11 of my Road to Unicum series. We take a look at another heavy tank, this time the Tier 7 Soviet IS tank, and like the T-54 medium tank, this tank is unusual in that the stock suspension can mount the upgraded turret, top gun, second engine, and all three equipment modules, the rammer, gun laying drive, and vents, so you should research the turret first, gun second, engine third, and suspension last. This tank definitely outperformed my expectations, and it's a reflection of how well-rounded the tank is. I was expecting to get in the neighborhood of 1600 damage per game with silver ammo, but averaged closer to 1800. And this tank has very good alpha of 390, and beyond that the tank has very good mobility and a good armor layout, including 90 millimeters of trollish side armor, which allows you to angle heavily to protect your front hull. The main downsides to this tank are its poor gun handling and the lackluster 175 penetration. Notice as I cross the gap here, I'm staying well south of the road, and that's to prevent from getting spotted, and I also keep my turret faced across the gap in case I do get spotted so that my front turret can help bounce any incoming fire. The south spawn has faster access to this shelf, and it allows us to spot and shoot at enemies that go into the valley. This Hellcat here ends up picking a pretty poor line. If he had driven a little bit more to the east, he could have hidden behind that tree and rock. That rock is hard cover, but since he's fully exposed, I can take my time aiming in and get the kill. Now, we can't stay on this shelf, it's not already safe, and beyond that, if there are tanks on the 3 line, they'll outspot me since I have very poor vision control in this heavy. 3 of the opposing Soviet brawling heavy tanks have been spotted down on this southwest corner, so both IS tanks as well as the T-150, and the IS just fired, so that allows us to move up and get some easy flanking shots. I shoot the side of his turret. And when brawling with heavies, it's really important to keep track of everyone's reload timers, and the reason is that the reload of the IS is pretty long, and the aim time is also very high, so you want to make sure that you have enough time when you're aiming on an opponent, like right there, where you can aim in fully when you need to. So I caught that T-150 in the top of his cupola, which is the hatch on the turret, which is an easy penetration as long as I can hit it. And then I finish off a T-67, a Tier 5 tank destroyer that had no business being down here in Brawler Land. I make a mistake here. I'm not respecting the IS's gun, and what I should have done, instead of just pulling out and trying to cross the gap, is bait him into a shot, then cross. And that's what I do here with the T-150. I bait him into a shot, which allows me to penetrate his very exposed side. And their second IS tank is playing too passively. He's sitting too far back. He really should be up here helping protect his other weaker Tier 5 and Tier 6 heavies. And there I get the kill in the KV-1. I opt not to side scrape. What I could have done is backed up around the corner, angled out backwards left, and then kill the KV-1. But in doing so, I would expose myself to arty fire. Now their IS just fired, so it allowed me to take my time and aim in. And during his and my reload, I crossed the gap using this crest in between us as well as this rock for hard cover, and then I'm pre-aiming where he's gonna be. He just fired, so I can take my time landing a shot on his relatively flat hull. We have a lead here, and 4 of our tanks are pushing on toward their base, so I don't want to follow onto that train, and I'm looking at the map and concerned a little bit about the Chaffee, who was last spotted near the bridge, and that tank is dangerous because he's very fast and mobile, and he could solo our German TD as well as both arties if he gets through. So I cut back toward the base, and the Chaffee is, as expected, trying to sneak into our base. And after tagging him, I cut the angle to the right, and that's because he's moving to his right, so I'm doing this in case he tries to run away like he is. I'll be able to keep him in my field of fire to finish him off. Now, if that Chaffee had cut back toward me and tried to flank me, I would have needed to put my butt up against the rocks to the right, just south of me, and I'll probably have to eat a few shots, but take my time, aim in, and finish him off. Now, if you've been following the chat through this match, you know there's been a bit of controversy. A French arty on our team has team killed 2 medium tanks that were camping in our base, and obviously camping is not a good thing, but by finishing off those friendly players, he's doing the work of the opposing team for them. And moreover, he's putting his gun each time on a very long reload of 30 seconds. So as I approach our base, I'm faced with a real risk that this player might shoot me. And I think, as long as I'm alive, I know that I'm helping our team. Our chances of winning are much better. So I go ahead and take out that arty as a risk mitigation step. Now, our German TD just died. He engaged both Togs at the same time, which doesn't make any sense. And the Togs are slow, so what this allows me to do is draw them into consecutive 1 versus 1 fights. And I'm using this hill here as hard cover in between my reloads and trying to expose only my turret, and the top half of my hull is angled. I actually could be angling it a little more because the side armor is that very thick 90mm. And what ended up happening with this Tog is we exchanged 3 damaging shots apiece, but that's much worse for him given how much higher my alpha is. Now I've kind of almost run out of room here in terms of the hill, so I turn around and rush toward the Tog, keeping my hull angled, and then I'm going to kind of face hug him and stick the front of my turret into his gun. In taking my final shot, I back away a little bit so I can shoot his hull, but it turns out the Tog's turret is soft enough that I just could have kept face hugging him and shot him through the front of his turret. I pick up an Ace Tanker Mastery badge as well as my first Mark of Excellence, and dealt over 4,700 damage along with over 1,300 of damage blocked. So I've played the IS and unlocked the IS-3. It's a great tank, and that is the tank we're going to look at in episode 12 of this series. And you can vote in the poll to let me know what tanks or replays you'd like to see after that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.